So it's as you can see from the title of the video, this one is all about purple fragrances, and I did have a bit of a kind of crazy mini haul of late, where I bought a few of the kind of classics and that. I've already kind of seen the Lolita Lempickas, but there's more. I'll just briefly go over them ones and that. And purple fragrances, they can suit all year round, can't they? Some of them they're more specific for that kind of colder weather with the richness and the sweetness, and then there are fresher ones, more kind of powdery ones for an evening. And purple is probably, if we were to colour my fragrances, could it be the biggest with white maybe? Potentially, yes. Yeah, and purple also sort of, as you'll see with a couple of the fragrances, can lean into that more light bluey purple with that same kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I mean by purple. I think we all knew that, and that was not needed particularly. But yeah, let's get into it. So first up is the Lolita Lempickas. And both EDP and the EDT, I mean, they are quite similar. So that kind of, they've got that core of the licorice, the violet, the kind of fruity note, the little bit of ivy is maybe potentially more noticeable in the EDT to me, with a little bit of more of a green freshness there, whereas EDP does have it in, but it's with it being much richer and kind of fuller as a fragrance, like it tends to get kind of enveloped by all of that. So doing two at once is really tricky. The EDP, like I was saying, is a fuller, richer version, maybe a little darker. You get more of the licorice. The violet is a little bit darker itself. It's a little kind of more syrupy and more prominent, and it dries down, and you get the kind of the richer, thicker notes at the bottom, and but you still get that lovely kind of muskiness about it, and the darker fruit notes are there, but again, like I say, sweeter and a little darker. Now when we come into the EDT, it's the similar profile, but the fruits are kind of a little bit lighter, a little bit fresher. Are they different? I think there might be apricot apparently. Whatever, the fruits are kind of a bit fresher, a bit kind of brighter, and that goes for the whole fragrance. The violet to me is a little, it's not powdery, but it mixing with the musks, it creates with the airiness. It's like walking through a violet feel on a spring day, you know, with winds and stuff, and the violet has that kind of you know, where you imagine a spore of something that the plant has fired out. I know plants don't fire spores out, but it's kind of like that, and it develops obviously lighter, it's brighter, it's a bit happier, and then it kind of becomes more of an airy, musky one. It's still got some of the depth and the richness in there, but yeah. So that's the Lolita Lempickas. So yeah, next up is the two Insolences. Yes, I bought the EDT and the EDP again. It's easier to do these separately, isn't it? So we'll start with the EDT, although I bought the EDP first, but whatever. EDT is in the new pointy Ace of Spades bottle things of the Legends line, isn't it? Again, I don't know them well enough. I know I've smelt the older ones from Smurfy Girly Claire. I can't remember them well enough. But the EDT is the fresher, brighter one, obviously. It also, I think it's different in quite a few ways. This one, the fruits in it has a slight metallic tinge as they run through it, like a bitterness. Now I don't know if the fruits are even listed, but I would imagine something like a cranberry as opposed to a raspberry, which I think is in the EDP, and it has that slight metallic freshness, but it's very nice still. But again, like the Lolita Lempicka, everything is fresher and more lifted. It still has that very distinctive kind of Parma violet-y fresh muskiness that Insolence is well known for. And yeah, that's kind of the EDT. The EDP is in the little UFO bottle. I got it for a damn good price, about 20ml in it. But yeah, the ED, damn bloody flies. The EDP is the Insolence we're probably all used to smelling, the kind of thick, rich Parma violets, the fruits and the raspberry, and a darker feel, maybe some more vanilla in it. It's kind of smoother and richer and warmer, more of an evening kind of late night scent. Saying that, really, the EDT has enough oomph about it to kind of be an all year round one. I think you could get it in winter, but for a more kind of intimate setting, a later night, I'd probably go for the EDP. I'm not going to keep waffling on about because I've got lots of fragrances to fit in. But yeah, that's Insolence, and Insolence is kind of more of a tender, snuggle fragrance, whichever one it is. You know, EDT, you know, snuggly picnic kind of out and about kind of fragrance, isn't it? Whereas EDPs, you snuggle on the sofa kind of thing. Both are absolutely beautiful. So that's Insolence from Guerlain. Now, they're obviously in no particular order and what have you. Next purple one is Burberry Touch. I think we all kind of know this fragrance fairly well. It's an older one, but I believe it should be in there. And kind of my first, if you like, it was my first kind of purple fragrance. Now, it's in a blue bottle and it's kind of got a blue purpley hue. And I believe it's always mystified me, it's violet leaf that is listed. There is violet flower in this one, without a doubt. Now, this one, off the top of my head, it's the cedar, that's kind of the main thing. And there's a white pepper giving it that. There's a muskiness, but the violet leaf, yes, it's a sweeter violet leaf. It is definitely, oh, look at the size of that crow. It's definitely there. And it's, there is an almost green, slight sweetness there. But then it's enveloped by this kind of powdery, rich kind of purple violet, which, how could it not be violet flower? And whatever's listed isn't necessarily the way it is, but that's what it's always made me think of. And it does have a very slight Parma violet-y thing, but again, that could come from the cedar, I suppose, in there. But there's quite a lot of vanilla. This used to be, back in the day, was too much for work, so it was more of a kind of going out party one. The newer version isn't all that different. Well, I say newer, I don't know how old the newer version will be, but it's a little bit lighter and friendlier, because again, the old one was a one spray kind of choke everyone out ever kind of fragrance. Lovely all the same. So that's Burberry Touch. Next one is Issey La Nuit de l'Homme, L'Entente, that one. As we're doing the designs, so let's put them together. And this is this is like, if you like, a violet iris version of the original. It's still, I think, got a bit of cardamom in there, and instead of the lavender and what have you, it's kind of been replaced with the violet iris. Now, it's not a particularly powdery violet. It's like a syrupy violet that goes through it. You do get a bit of powderiness in it, but it smells the same, not the same like olfactory the same, but it is like that exact fragrance but with different notes. And obviously that makes it a bit more, even more of an evening one. Now, the original, you kind of, because it's so old and that, you wouldn't call it kind of a date night fragrance anymore, would you? It's very easy wear, any old time. But this one, that changing it, that making it darker and perhaps a little more sensual and romantic with the violet running through it, it makes it very nice, and a much more of a night one, a kind of a, again, maybe a date night fragrance or something. And I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. So that's La Nuit de l'Homme from Longtemps from Yves Saint Laurent. Next, there's a couple I've talked about an awful lot, but they are two of my favourite purples. First up, we'll go very quickly with it, is Amouage's Imitation, and that's a blackcurrant fragrance. Blackcurrant's of course purple, and it's predominantly the blackcurrant, like a blackcurrant licorice sweet. I think I get running through it. It's got these fresh, lovely aldehydes. This could be not a hot day, but a British summer's day, shall we say, kind of fragrance, because them aldehydes do add a lot of freshness and airiness to it, and it's got that kind of a little bit of greenness in there. It's got your Amouage kind of resiny, heavy feel in the base. There's a little bit of smokiness running through it. It's like walking through the blackberry bushes, but blackberry bushes that have been baked in the heat, and there's maybe a smell of some grass fires nearby, and it's not that fresh, but it's, you know, the aldehydes do lift it up and give it, and the black currants start off quite vintagey, you know how they described, a little pissy or whatever, and then they kind of obviously get much kind of fresher and more like a Ribena running through it, not too sweet though. So yeah, that's Amouage's Imitation. Next is probably my most talked about purple scent. That's Poupée d'Automne from Maison Violet. This is your chalky iris violet kind of one. I think there might be rose, but this is kind of a mauve one to me, if you like. The powderiness is kind of the main thing, and there are some citruses and whatever in the beginning that kind of lifts it up a bit. But it's kind of like, yeah, like this sky, like a purple like that. It's supposed to represent autumn, which it does, and it's kind of, the chalky clayiness gives you that kind of melancholic feel about it. It still has that sweetness, that kind of make-uppy feel, but it's much more sad. The memory of kissing someone, or the memory of cold day walks and hugs, like autumn is, the memory of all the colours finally falling down and everything getting a bit darker, and you're facing the inevitable end, that kind of thing. And that's kind of Poupée d'Automne from Maison Violet. So yeah, next up on the list is a very, very famous one again, and that's Misia, the EDP from Chanel. And we all know this one. This is your 1920s, 40s vintage kind of big, kind of powder room, you know, and a kind of rah-rah club kind of thing, can-can dancers and all of that. It's big, it's huge, it's a powder bomb of purples and blues and the little pinks from the rose, and it's got a beautiful kind of muskiness to it. I think there might be a little hint of suede or leather in there as well. The kind of, I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's a naughty little hint of a raspberry kind of sweeten it up a bit, and it's magnificent. Smells like the best Chanel makeup. I'm not qualified to make that remark, because I don't know what makeup people wear and such like, but yeah, we all know this one. This is wouldn't go as far as a masterpiece, but it's certainly one of my favourite Chanels, and it's beautiful, and it's very Chanel in its kind of style, you know what I mean, that kind of vintage, almost kind of safe, easy, well-known one. So that's Misia from Chanel. Next up is a kind of indie violet, if you like. That's from Map of the Heart, which is an Australian brand. And this you could call this the niche version of Lolita Lempicka. Probably not, it's a bit, you know, Lolita Lempicka's perfectly good. So yes, this has a kind of similar note profile. It's got lots of there's more licorice in this one. It's darker, It's got ink as well, so it gives it that slight black smell. It's a lot of smoke, there's lots of smoke and kind of incensey notes in it. There's a dark violet running through it, and it's just got a bit more oomph about it, a bit more mystery, especially with the smokiness and everything. It's kind of a more, you know, my usual taste. This is probably a more vampirical one, a more kind of, you know, dark, if you like, with the ink. You know, Dracula sat scribing his diaries or whatever he writes in his books, and yeah, it's very beautiful, very easygoing. Well, is it easygoing? It's easygoing in a nice way for me, but maybe the smokiness and the kind of the blackness of it can probably be a bit much. But yeah, it's a great fragrance. So that's Purple Heart from Map of the Heart. Then we have the kind of more modern Dracula's fragrance from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. That's Oud Satin Mood. We'll just talk about them both together. But it's ultimately, as we know, a lot of people seem to smell more of the rose in it. There is like a powdery rose running through it. The kind of beautiful leathery oud that's there. And there's obviously vanilla musks, but to me it's a very purple smelling one. The violet kind of is more prominent than the rose, on me anyway. I can't speak for everyone, and it's got this kind of very sensual kind of, it is someone who's kind of seducing you, you know, nuzzling your neck and kissing you, but they're all in black. They're dangerous, they're kind of, you know, interesting people, and they're not red like your old stereotypical Dracula. These are purple ones. They're hiding it a bit more, going for a bit more colour in their life and that. So that is Oud Satin Mood from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Next is Dancing with Strangers from 4160 Tuesdays and Tessa Williams. And this is kind of an ode to like an old dance club, a ball, you know, ballroom dancing and all of that. And again, it is your violet iris rose. It's got all them elements about it. It's beautifully powdery, musky, sweet and sensual and makeup-y and big, and you know, it takes you back to them. But the thing that makes this one magical, just such a wonderful, unique touch, is the honeysuckle in it, which gives it that kind of sticky, warm. It's not quite fruity, it's not quite floral, as it kind of sits in between a kind of golden, beautiful, syrupy warmth through it. But and again, honeysuckle isn't always like that. It does have the kind of, I don't want to call it greener, like grass like this, which I don't know is dried out or burnt or whatever, but you know what I mean. It has that golden grassy thing to it, and that mixing with them traditional notes that we recognise, it just makes it really, it's a really good one. I think it's the only one left on my potentially on my wish lists of violets. I will get it, but you know me, I think there's 3 from 4160 that I can't quite want. I'll get there, I shall get there. So yeah, that's Dancing with Strangers from 4160 Tuesdays and Tessa Williams. Next, let's swerve back round to Indie, one of my favourite fragrances ever, and this is a beautiful, it's the purple in it's predominantly lilac, I believe, but there's also, I mean, and they're not listed, but I also get kind of hyacinthy, bluebelly kind of feel in there as well. There's violet. It's just a melange of purple flowers, but all purple flowers in all states, if you get what I mean. There's a little bit of kind of powderiness, there's a kind of sticky sweetness, there's the kind of bluer smelling nectar in there, there's the kind of fresher, greener feel from like the lilacs and what have you, as well as a kind of bold kind of purpleness in there. And there are other things in there, but it's mainly all about just purple flowers, spring, going into summer. There's some here in this country, the purples come much later on. I believe the sort of more of our summer, moving even close to when autumn is due kind of thing. you know, we start off with all the whites, don't we, and then the yellows, and then you kind of get the blues and the reds and stuff coming through, and then you kind of, as the season develops, it's more about the purples and the darker blues, and back into kind of oranges and such like with the leaves and that. But yeah, it gives me that feeling of a kind of late summer, just all that lovely purple, sweet, intoxicating smells in the air. There's something about the smell of purple, isn't there? I mean, I don't know if there's any plummy ones in this, but plum is another good example of that kind of purple smelling. Just makes you, and I think it is maybe because of our associations with it, take away the royalty, but it's a kind of gothy colour in that, isn't it? But purple back to purple rain, it's the mixture of all of them elements of it all in one, and it's quite a transportative fragrance, just walking through nature really, and the fresh smells of purple through the forests and the beautiful greenery and that. So that's Purple Rain from April Aromatics. Next, go back to a designer. Nothing wrong with anything. It's a Lilac again, and that's a drop Issey from Issey Miyake. I recently smelt the Eau Fraiche version. No, the original is kind of it is, the lilac runs through it like a vein, and it's mainly about that. It starts off quite fresh, a little bit green, and then there's a kind of creamy milkiness running through it. Is it sandalwood or something similar to that, and vanilla, which smooths it all out, but the purple is still there. And then not only that, there's ambroxan, but it's ambroxan used as ambroxan should be, and it just kind of pushes it out a bit. There's a little bit of a sharper muskiness, but it's not too much. It's just, and I suppose it also gives it this nice airiness about it running through it. It's a beautiful fragrance, one I do enjoy wearing. Perhaps not on the hottest of days, because it can get a little bit cloying. But that's a drop Issey from Issey Miyake. Another one is a strange one to put in there, but again, the fruits, maybe not just the flowers, I should be talking about fruits as well, is Gourmand from Olfactive O. Now, what makes this purple is it like a proper fig. There is a bit of a creaminess that develops later on with the vanilla and the woods, and it's almost got a white chocolatey feel with a chocolatiness, but the purple comes from the fruity fig. It's, you know what I mean, a proper fig. When you bit into it, it has this kind of purple, kind of beautiful sweetness there, and that is a main part of this. And obviously there's boozy notes which kind of amplify that kind of sweet juiciness in there, and it's just it's a fantastic fragrance. It's a proper grown-up gourmand as well. I don't really have anything quite like it either, and all them notes, them kind of a grown-up party, you know, expensive, maybe darker chocolates, expensive, a little hint of white chocolate, and obviously liqueurs and booze, rum and such like with it, and then these figs that you're just picking out of a bowl and the juice is running down your chin, and it's that sweetness, that kind of purple sweetness. Now, to me, figs are purple, but you obviously get different colours in that, so that's maybe where that kind of purple association comes from. So that is Gourmand from Olfactive O. Next is a more affordable one, from like a Middle Eastern fragrance brand, and that's Orientica's Royal Bleu. The reason I put this in, it's not exactly the same as Leighton, but I don't own Leighton, and it's kind of in there, and it is a very bluey, purpley smelling one. There's violet and lavender in there that kind of goes with it, and we all know Leighton kind of is vanillic as well, isn't it? It's kind of beautifully rich and sumptuous. There's Oud Accord like type feels in there, and it's quite simply that. It's like a more lighter version, not lighter as in it, you know, it's a beast of a fragrance, but I mean, it's not quite as dense or syrupy sweet. and it's kind of, it's just beautiful. I think it's the sandalwood in this one as well, and that general muskiness, but it's the fresher lavender and the violet that give you that kind of feel. And the same as, like, I always think of Leighton, it's not the same, and I'm not saying it's not a copy, but if that Boss bottled, it may be even Boss bottled intense kind of DNA, where the apple is in there, but other notes are replaced with a kind of violety purpleness. It's very, very, very nice, very easy to wear. So that is Orientica's Royal Bleu. Don't worry, I'm coming to the end. I'm not going to go through every single purple fragrance that I own or in the history of the world ever. Next is Lilac Love from Amouage. Now, you know, I think it speaks for itself what smells purple in there. Is, yes, there's a beautiful lilac. God, it smells so sweet here. And like there is lilacs or something, or maybe some hyacinths in the air. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, but it smells gorgeous here. I don't think it's me. I can't remember what I sprayed, but no, it's not. I don't think it's me. But yeah, it's this kind of just sumptuous kind of white chocolate, sandalwood, and that kind of feel about it. Vanilla, it's sweet, and it's kind of a big fragrance. And then there's that lilac that just runs right through it, adding that bit of a purple sweetness to it. It's an Amouage, so it's more complex than I'm kind of giving it credit for. There will be a myrrh or a frankincense in there, giving it a nice sort of fresher feel in there, but it's mainly the lilac and the kind of white chocolatey creamy notes. It's a beautiful fragrance. So that's Lilac Love from Amouage. And to finish it all off is a fragrance that's discontinued. Now, I had a sample of it and I've never been able to find a bottle of it, really, to be honest, and that's from Stranger's Perfumes, and it's called Virginia. And this is the kind of like one of my dream fragrances, if you like. It's just a sea of wild flowers and green growing through meadows. I think it was based on a visit to one of the parks in London or something like that. And it's not the most purple smelling in the world, but there are bluebells and hyacinths and probably lilac in there, and you can smell that in amongst it. But it's a sea of all different coloured flowers, all different wild flowers that grow around here, which are always very scented and beautiful. Don't need to really waffle on about it. It's a bit of a shame, but there's the greenness there. There's a nice vetiver which almost pushes it towards a hayiness, like it's sort of going through late summer, and that it's an absolutely magnificent fragrance. Shame it went, but that's Virginia from Stranger's Perfumeries. Now, there were a few more on my list. There's a couple of these where I only have samples or travel sizes from. Well, on the whole, I'd say 95% of them have got bottles, and the ones I don't have are definitely wish list ones. But it's just, I mean, they're not all the same sorts of purples, they're all different, and purple can add so many different things, like I said in the introduction to a fragrance. It's just a magnificent kind of colour of a perfume, isn't it, if you like. That purple smell, that just takes us to all different places and all different points in our lives, doesn't it, really? There weren't many fruity ones in there. Maybe a video for another time. And I know that I learnt this from watching Margot's purple video. I need to link that, because you don't really think of this. To us, the smell of purple over here is blackcurrant and violet, maybe. In America, the smell of purple is something quite different. It's based around the grapes, isn't it? And the purple grapes and that, and the black grapes, which gives a whole different kind of smell about it, which kind of shows it's something that we grow up with it. Anyway, I'm not going to waffle on about that. Go watch Margot's video. So what about yourselves? What are your favourite purple fragrances? What's your favourite colour fragrance? What do you have the most of in your collection? Where do purple fragrances take you? Are they kind of juvenile? Are they a more mature smell from the kind of powderiness? Are they gothy from the darkness and what have you? Alright folks, thanks. Bye.